Welcome back, Summoners, to another Pro Guides patch rundown video. Today we'll be going over some of the changes made in patch 9.4. I'll cover all the details, including a tier list for each lane that was made by our in-house analysts and partnered pro players. Since the patch has just hit the live servers, keep in mind that these tier lists are purely predictions. We encourage you guys to comment on our predictions and say if you agree or disagree with us on specific champions. There's a lot of changes in this patch, so let's get the conversation started. Even after several nerfs made to Urgot in the past few patches, they clearly weren't enough to push him out of his Urgod status. The Crab Man has been the best go-to pick for the top lane in both competitive and solo queue, but will finally be getting the nail in the coffin. His Q and W will have their mana costs increased, followed by a huge nerf to his W shield. This nerf will definitely push Urgot out of the S tier status, and he will be lowered to our B tier for patch 9.4. Even though Gnar has a decent laning phase versus most melee champions, he's still struggling to find success in the current meta. As a result, Gnar will be receiving a small buff to his Mega Gnar base armor and magic resist growth this patch. He will be moved up to our B tier this patch due to the new Conqueror possibly becoming a staple rune on him. We'll go over the changes made to Conqueror later in this video, so make sure to stay tuned. We still aren't sure just exactly how good Gnar will be, but we'll keep a close eye on him and keep you guys updated in our next tier lists next week. Our top lane tier list for patch 9.4 will see drastic changes due to the newly reworked Conqueror rune. We'll go over the details later, but for now, just note that champions who benefit off consistent DPS, such as Fiora, Yasuo, Irelia, and Tryndamere, are all placed in our A or S tier. Our in-house analysts believe that their new Conqueror will be an extremely powerful rune on these champions and will greatly impact the upcoming meta. We'll make sure to keep you guys updated with the most accurate tier list next week, so make sure you watch out for that as well. Karthus has been one of the safest yet strongest junglers in the meta and will finally be put in check for patch 9.4. His main strengths came from his ability to quickly clear camps and impact the lanes from the other side of the map. His Q will be receiving a nerf to its base damage by 5. Although this seems like a minor nerf, keep in mind that this is his main damage ability, so the 5 damage does stack up. You'll definitely feel this nerf the next time you play Karthus, but he'll still be a solid pick for patch 9.4. Karthus will remain in our jungle S tier this patch due to his jungle clear speed only being impacted by a negligible amount. Trundle used to be a go-to pick for many pro players in competitive matches last season, but is failing to see success in Season 9. Due to this, Trundle will be receiving a small buff to his W, which will have its base mana cost reduced by 20 and bonus attack speed increased by a decent amount. Trundle will remain in our B tier list for patch 9.4, but we'll see if he can make the jump to A tier within the coming week. Hecarim has surprisingly been doing really well in the meta and will become even stronger this patch. Even though many players in high elo have been playing Hecarim to great success, he'll be receiving a buff to his Q and his E. His Q will have its mana cost reduced by a small but impactful amount, and his E will have its cooldown reduced as well. Hecarim will be moved up to our S tier this patch due to him already being strong in the previous meta. The rank 1 jungler in North America was actually spamming Hecarim games and demolished challenger players consistently. He is very powerful in the right hands, so do not underestimate him. Ever since the rework done to her kit, Rek'Sai has been failing to burrow herself to the former glory she once had. Rek'Sai will be receiving a few quality of life changes this patch and will remain in our jungle B tier for patch 9.4. The jungle tier list has a few new changes made for this patch, mainly due to the newly reworked Conqueror. Jax and Yi will be moved up to our A tier junglers, and Hecarim will be moved up to our S tier. Our analysts believe that tank and support junglers will still be on top of the tier list due to low XP efficiency and will likely remain that way until a major jungle revamp happens. In our S tier, we have Kha'Zix, Sejuani, Karthus, Nunu, Xin Zhao, and Hecarim. These 6 champions are very powerful, and we highly recommend you try them out in your next few games. Syla has been in a pretty good place in the meta since his release, but will be receiving a few changes this patch. His Q will now deal more damage versus champions, and his W will have its base healing nerfed by a small amount. Lastly, his R has also been changed to no longer draw turret aggro when stealing an opponent's ultimate. Sylas will remain in our mid lane A tier for patch 9.4 due to these changes actually hurting him more than helping. Ever since the addition of the new lifeline passive on Phantom Dancer, assassins have been struggling to kill the AD carries. Zed has especially been hurt the most by the new Phantom Dancer and will be receiving a compensation buff in patch 9.4. Zed will have his base attack speed increased by a small amount, followed by a damage buff to his Q. His W, Living Shadow, will have its cooldown reduced, and also its recast range increased by a significant amount. Lastly, his ultimate Death Mark will receive a compensation nerf and will no longer grant him bonus AD by taking down an opponent. Zed will be moved up to the A tier this patch and will be a strong pick for the upcoming meta. Azir's balance history has been pretty hit or miss in the past couple of seasons. Either he's the most broken mid laner in the meta, or he's completely unviable. To help Azir see a little bit more play, he will be having his base attack speed growth increased by double the previous amount. This change combined with the new Conqueror might just be enough to bring him back into the meta, and we'll let you know in our mid-patch analysis video next week. For now, we're moving him into the B tier list, but is likely subject to change. Yasuo has been a little too strong ever since the ADC item rework, and will be receiving a few nerfs to his kit this patch. His base attack damage will be lowered by 3, and his Q will do 20% reduced critical strike damage. Yasuo will be dropped to our A tier list this patch, but will still be a great pick due to his synergy with the Conqueror rune. Our mid lane tier list for patch 9.4 will remain similar to our previous one. Cassiopeia will be moved back up into our S tier due to Yasuo stepping down into A tier. Surprisingly, Taliyah mid has been making quite the comeback recently and will be moved up to our B tier for now. She's someone we'll keep a close eye on because many pro players have been finding pretty good success with her in solo queue. Our S tier consists of LeBlanc, Lissandra, Zoe, Talon, and Cassiopeia, and we recommend you try these champions out in your next few games. Lastly, our reworked Conqueror rune could drastically affect the mid lane, so we'll keep an eye out this patch and make sure to tell you guys what the best champions are next week. Lucian is by far one of the strongest AD carries in the meta right now, and he will be receiving a nerf to his W, Ardent Blaze. Ardent Blaze will have its base damage and mana cost nerfed at all ranks, which might just be good enough to drop Lucian down a notch. He'll still have a powerful laning phase, but will no longer be able to spam abilities whenever he pleases. Lucian will remain in our S tier this patch. The ADC tier list this patch sees a few changes. Kai'Sa, Yasuo, and Cassiopeia have been moved up to our A tier ADCs for this patch due to the addition of the Conqueror rune. Xayah has been dropped from our A tier down to B tier due to her declining win rate since the start of the patch. In S tier, we have Lucian, Sivir, Caitlyn, Ezreal, and Jinx. These 5 champions are a level above the rest and will give you the edge you need to win more solo queue games. Now on to support. Thresh has always been a solid support, but has recently been a little bit too strong. His Q, Death Sentence, will be receiving a nerf to its mana cost and cooldown to keep him in check. This nerf will affect Thresh's stance in the meta, but he'll still be a solid pick going into 9.4. Thresh will be dropped to our support A tier and will likely stay that way for the remainder of the patch. The support tier list for this patch will remain similar to our previous one due to there only being one balance change made in this patch. Soraka and Blitzcrank have been moved up to our S tier supports, and Thresh has been moved down to our A tier. Lastly, Zilean will be moved up to our A tier support due to his win rate increasing in the recent meta. The rework done to Conqueror is easily the biggest change made in this patch. Conqueror was designed to help fighters in extended combat, but it offered way too much immediate power in trades. The window where opponents could trade back with Conqueror Steroid was too small, ultimately making Conqueror a broken rune. Conqueror will now grant 3 to 15 adaptive force for 3 seconds, stacking up to a maximum of 5 times of 15 to 75. You gain 1 stack every time you deal damage against a champion at 5 stacks. 10% of that damage you deal is converted to true damage, and you heal for that amount. This mini rework will greatly impact the meta, and we'll see just how much it changes the champion's win rates in the next coming week. Essence Reaver will have its attack damage increased by 5, and its cooldown is now placed as a unique passive. The Zero Farm Zilean strat was recently played by Huni in the LCS and will be removed completely for patch 9.4. Spell Thief's Edge and Ancient Coin will now only proc when a champion is within 2000 range. That's it for our patch 9.4 rundown. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to be notified for our next video. As we said before, this video is a discussion piece. Please comment down below if you guys disagree with any of these or if you think that any champions should be in our S tier that we haven't mentioned. Also, if you're interested in getting better at League of Legends, please check out our site at proguides.com. We have tons of guides made by your favorite pro players. The second part of our analysis video will be available next week, which will bring you more accurate tier lists using fresh statistics. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys on the Rift.